Good to see you this morning. We have quite a few visitors that are with us. We are trying our best, and this is what I hope you see, to be simply Christians and to fulfill the word and the will of God as expressed in His magnificent Son. This is the time we take and try to focus our minds and our hearts on the Lord's Supper. And this morning, I'd like to take you on a simple journey, very simple. I want you to think about this morning what it would be like in the first century to have been a Christian worshiping on the Lord's Day. Except this time, you are a slave. And you have worked your way through the streets maybe early in the morning because you have duties that you will need to be performing for your master later in the morning, and you've taken this time, slipped away just for a few minutes to worship with your brothers and sisters. Work your way through the small town, maybe in Asia Minor, and come to the door of someone's house that hosts the gathering of the believers in the way. You go in. Here you are, a slave. You have been captured. Somewhere in the vast empire of the Romans, you have been taken captive, sold in the marketplace as a servant or as a laborer, and you're dressed that way, maybe in a simple shift or some slave robe, very basic utilitarian sandals, and walk through the streets, the muck, the filth, to get to this place. You've hurried because you know that you want to be there before they celebrate the Lord's Supper. And you get there and you go in. And one of the focus moments in that time is this Lord's Supper, this celebration, this memorial. I'm not sure what the exact words should be. But there you are, standing among a group of believers. And what do you see? Maybe to your left is a soldier. He has been given leave for a few moments from his commander to be there, and he still carries his sword. And you remember the soldiers that took you and captured you and tore you away from your home, and for a long time you were bitter about that and angry. And yet this man standing next to you is not one of those cruel men, but has become your brother. And that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around. How can that be? Maybe over to your right is the owner of the home in which you're meeting, possibly in a courtyard area, and he is a wealthy merchant, maybe even part of the aristocratic class of this town. And you think about the contrast between the way he's dressed and the way you're dressed as a slave. How clean he is, and you've still got gunk on your feet. And you've tracked it in. Hope he's not mad. But that really doesn't register. Because he is also your brother? And then other people may be around. The way I envision is people standing around this courtyard of this villa type thing, and there are people from other races. People that at one point in time, the way you were raised would have looked down upon them, yet they would call you brother. You look around, and there are old and young, and there are merchants, the wealthy and the poor, the farmers, and they're all gathered, and at some point in time, they are given a small piece of this unleavened bread to celebrate this memorial. And you wonder how it could be that we could be united in this moment. Except for you, you saw something on your way there that really brings it into focus. Because as you made your way to this villa that morning, you passed by a sight that no one really wants to see, especially a slave. As you passed by on the road, the Romans had caught a runaway slave sometime the day before and had crucified that slave where everyone would pass by. And you had passed him. And as a slave, you knew one of two things, that most likely you would either die in captivity as a slave or would face that execution. And that was the reality of your life. Except for what you held in your hand. What you held in your hand was the symbol that there was someone who was willing to do that for you, even a slave. And when you held that in your hand, you had it in your mind that there was someone years before, a good man, a perfect man. In fact, the Son of God, that said that your fate was not sealed by a conquering army or by a casual owner of your life that could execute you at the whim of his desires, but instead valued you enough that he stepped in front of that fate and took that for you and held that in your hand to remember that sacrifice. And that the truth is I look to the left and I look to the right and I look across, everyone is there holding that same symbol. The soldiers, the wealthy, the people that I would have never spoken to before, and yet we are united, not around a courtyard, not around an icon, but we are united around an image, a memorial of the life sacrificed for each one of us. And you're going to partake of the Lord's Supper, and you take of the bread and take of the fruit of the vine. You're brought as close to that moment as is physically possible, as we are separated by both time and distance. But can we be drawn any closer? And it doesn't matter if I'm the soldier, the slave, the landowner, the aristocracy, whoever I might be. I still have to face the fate of death. And he has said, I will step in front of that and take the penalty for you. Join with him. He has been dead for 2,000 years. but he's still our brother. Join with her, that woman across the room, because she is still our sister. I can't see her face, but I know she's there. As we join them in this moment, honoring and remembering what makes all of this possible, the love of Jesus that said, I will die for you.